Hello, welcome to this LinkedIn Live to discuss the Mindful Business Owners Group. My name is Jonathan Reynolds. I'm CEO of Mindful Life, Mindful Work, and we've recently created this coaching group to support mindful business owners. And what does that mean? One of the things that I've found over my career being a mindful business owner is that it's easy to feel isolated. It's easy to feel like we don't have the resources or the ideas or the things that we need to succeed. And one of the ways that I found over my career to get those things is to connect to other business owners, to be in a community dialogue around best practices, around what's working in the mindful space. And by mindful, we mean we don't necessarily mean mindfulness-based services, for instance. They might be things in sort of the social emotional intelligence realm, but they also might be products that are carefully designed or ecologically safe. And so the Mindful Business Owners Group is designed to bring all sorts of business owners together, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, potentially large businesses, and potentially even owners of projects within large corporations or department leaders. Anyone who's interested in practicing business more mindfully. And again, that could be a solopreneur, or that could be somebody who is offering services distinct from what they're used to owning, and they want to explore what it actually means to sort of step into the growing mindful space. So we're doing this LinkedIn Live to answer any questions, to give a little bit of overview of the Mindful Business Owners Group. Not sure, I'm not that familiar with LinkedIn Live, so hopefully this is being broadcast. I'm using another platform to do so. But maybe I could just start by sharing some of the areas that we hope to cover. Starting a small business is really challenging. We might have a great idea, but as many of us find shortly after that idea is born, ideas are kind of the easy part, and execution then becomes the challenging part. Is how do we actually want to build and design our business? Do we want it to be really lean, or do we want it to be automated, or do we want it to scale or not scale? Do we have a vision for eventually selling the business, or is it a lifetime legacy business for ourselves and our family? And all of those things I think are really important to have a conversation about, to have some sense of what our initial intention is, but then to talk to others who have maybe created similar or distinct businesses. One of the great things about sharing our story and our path and our challenges is we get to hear where that overlaps or doesn't overlap with others. And so sometimes the learning comes from somebody sharing something that we might even feel disconnected from or doesn't apply to us, but there's some little nugget in there that's like, oh, that piece is important to me, or that helps me look at my situation in a new way. So we've had a couple of sessions. We've just started the Mindful Business Owners Group. We've had a couple of sessions. We meet on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 7 p.m. PDT. We meet every other Tuesday, so every 2 weeks. And in those initial sessions, a lot of meet and greet, as you might imagine initially. But in those sessions, we get to start to hear what's going on. And some of these early sessions, because of course, as we began relatively small. We haven't grown yet to scale ourselves, but that means more focused time in these early days, in these early sessions. So we've had a chance to, we're going to loosely follow what's called a co-development model, where people bring challenges, and then we all share about how we maybe have approached similar challenges in the past. And then whoever's challenge it is, they get to have new ideas with how to address it moving forward. We've sort of named it a coaching group. And so what that means is coaching tends to fall and focus in four main areas. There's an accountability piece. Once we sort of share what we're working on, then others know about that, then they're going to ask about it. They're going to check in with us. They're going to say, how's it going? And so knowing once we share our challenges or whatever we're working on socially, then there's this social element that helps keep us on course. So there's an accountability piece. The other piece I've alluded to in a coaching situation is a perspective piece, just getting another set of eyes, or in this case, multiple set of eyes on our situation helps give us new perspective and ideas on what we're working on. And so that's a helpful piece. There's another piece that is more just morale building. Just knowing that we're not alone is sort of like functions almost like cheerleading, where just knowing that people care about us and they care about the success of our business to the degree that they ask about it can be really helpful. Just knowing that we're not, again, operating in total isolation. And then the fourth piece about coaching that is useful in a group setting like this is something called sponsorship. And that is, how do we support each other? If I know the right person for you to meet or talk to, how do we make those connections? So it can look like networking in that sense, but it can also be when you need someone to vouch for you. You need somebody to say, hey, I'm in this coaching group with them and they seem like they're moving in a really deep way that has lots of integrity. That can go a really long way to opening doors. And so the coaching group also can evolve into things like collaborations. Potentially, as it grows and scales itself, there might be opportunities to offer each other services if there's a good fit for that. So again, there's lots of different things that can come out of it: friendships and new ideas, new possible partnerships around developing a new business. So there's all sorts of interesting things that can happen when we come together and we're in ongoing dialogue and community and conversations together. So that's a little bit on sort of structure. And the content emerges based on what people are actually working on and what they're actually struggling with. And that can be very specific stuff about the business, like, oh, how do I scale, or what automated things should I use for scheduling or whatever. But it can also be more subtle and psychological, like, oh, I'm really struggling around how whether I can do this. I mean, that's just a sort of basic thing. Like I'm losing the faith when things are challenging. Well, what do we do then? How do we support ourselves psychologically? And so the group can span all of these sorts of things. Because again, we're human operating and executing on our business. And we've all heard the saying, working in the business and working on the business. Well, depending on the size of the business that we own, sometimes we're going to be working in the business and executing on stuff. And sometimes we're going to be working on the business more strategically. And then how to manage that, especially if we're very small, like a solopreneurship. And so that's the intention. And I think we have a chat open here. I don't know if people can access the chat, or I don't know how they even would. But if you are on this live stream and have any questions or comments or feedback, again, it's a living entity, meaning we're in dialogue around developing this thing based on who is actually interested in it. So the topics that I at least wanted to allude to is the idea of the business. Who's your audience? Who's your target? The design, again, how do you, there's as many ways to design a business as there are people, if not more. So what do you want to create that supports you being the most human that you can be, even though this is a professional expression? Like, what works for you? Is the business truly built around you as a human being and the lifestyle that you want to live? Oftentimes that doesn't happen because someone's just trying to find something that's profitable. But if we don't build it around ourselves, we've done ourselves a disservice. What is your presence? So your social media presence, your online presence, your executive presence. How do you establish thought leadership? Why should someone do business with you versus all of the other choices? How have you set yourself apart by not by competing around that sort of thing, but by being yourself and really knowing your own authenticity, moving from that place in your business? And financial concerns, of course, we're in business to make money. That's what makes it a business and not a hobby. So how are you doing that in a way that feels aligned with yourself and in integrity, and aligns with your values and worldview and sort of the stamp you want to put on the world, and how you want to be of service to others? Operations are a big part of that, back-end stuff. How have you designed that, if at all? Has it sort of arisen organically, or were you strategic about it? What elements of both make sense for your business? Again, you only really find that out through trial and error. There's an iterative process to it, but then also through talking to others. How did you do it? How does that work for you? Are you going to keep doing it like that if you get bigger? All of those questions. In addition to branding, what is your brand? How are people going to recognize it without even needing to think about it? They just feel it because it's your brand. It touches them emotionally in some way, not just because it's visually recognizable, not just because it's has sort of a wording that maybe is recognizable, but they actually feel something that connects them to your brand. I mentioned social media, but then also the problem of scaling, especially if you're small. How do you use technology to scale? How do you use technology to automate things that sort of can be taken off your plate, or at least made somewhat easier? How much do you want to maintain in a manual way? Some things you might want a heavier touch and not automate much. And those are all decisions based on, does this support what I want it to support in a way that is actually useful to me and nurturing to me as a human, feeds my family, takes care of my financial needs, and then also supports me. So those are all things that can come up in the Mindful Business Owners Group and what we're talking about. So again, we meet every 2 weeks from 5:30 to 7 PDT, Pacific Time US. We have a dedicated online space. We have a larger social media entity called Mindset Social, and this is a private space within that where people can chat with each other in an ongoing way. They can share resources. They can connect with each other. They can see recordings of past sessions that they maybe weren't able to attend. So we have an online space for that. And we're currently offering a discount, 50% off for the first 6 months. It's already reasonably priced as is, but we thought we'd make it even easier to come for the first 6 months and get a sense of, can this be useful to me? So I put a link in the chat, a direct link to sign up or to see more information. Love to have you join us. We want a diverse range of business owners, both in the types of businesses, but also in geographic location, all sorts of things. Because again, the more diversity we have, the more diverse perspectives, the stronger we each become, because we have other things to pull from and other things to consider. So again, you might be a business owner offering services. You might be a business owner offering products. They might be distinctly mindful in some way, or you might just be interested in approaching your business more mindfully. You don't have to be in mindful services or mindful products to participate. So that's really about all that I wanted to cover today. I just wanted to let folks know what we're doing with the Mindful Business Owners Group. I'll wait a minute here to see if anybody is on the stream and wants to ask a question or offer a comment. But other than that, that's what we're doing. It feels like it's an exciting new beginning for us because, again, I've spent the last at least 2 decades sort of refining my own mindful business work and services. And this just feels like a really great next step to get people together, build a mutually supportive community, and really sort of access. So Mindful Life, Mindful Work has grown a little bit of a presence in the mindful space, and we have some traction. And this is a way to bring all those people together and to support each other and to continue to move sort of the development of mindful sensibilities in the business world, but also just in the world in general. I think that the more self-reflective and the more self-aware that all of us can be, the better off we'll all be individually, but also collectively. We'll be able to relate to each other more skillfully across differences. Of course, differences always have a foundation of some similarity. We share more than we don't share. So hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you found this informative. And love to see you at a future Mindful Business Owners Group session. Let me know if you have any questions. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a direct message, or you can visit Mindful Life Mindful Work's website, which is mindfullifemindfulwork.com.